Look, we from the bottom, ain't no problems, we gon' make a way. Got no coach on the field, but we making plays. Hey, look, don't worry, we gon' be okay. Hey, look, why? Cause we gon' make them pay.
What is the goddamn deal? It is your boy, Mr. Marley Bets, and this is Brothas N Bets. We on this college football edition. Finally wrapping up the conferences. We got like 2 major conferences left. PAC-12 is one of them. And to talk about the PAC-12 today, I got the homie all the way from the West Coast, Mr. Picks from Dave. What's going down, Dave?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good, man. We're almost here. We're almost 1 weekend. We got week 0 coming up this weekend. Getting excited. Talk a little football, man. We're getting close.
It's been a journey, you know. Everyone. Well, I'm gonna speak for everyone, but for me, we complain about there only being baseball, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, we have too much to do, too much to think about, too much to look at, and football's here. But I couldn't be more excited. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for a football season.
Yeah. I feel real good about this season.
Yeah.
I told one of my friends today earlier. We were talking baseball, just going over some games. I said, bro, I can't wait until football starts. I'm gonna fucking kill Vegas this year. Like, I'm really literally trying. I feel so damn good about football. Even my preseason bets. Even though I haven't been like doing anything major, I just do little small parlays, little small shit. But my picks have been pretty goddamn good for it to be preseason. I say so myself. Hit the Giants. Didn't take that spread. Ravens, killer. I was on that. I was on the Browns today. They lost. So I went 2-1 today football, but just preliminary glances. I just feel really fucking good about football this year.
Yeah, I didn't take the Ravens. I usually take them almost every game. I don't give out the picks. I don't usually. Preseason's hard to cap NFL.
Right.
I have given out some, and basically my capping is usually this team's playing their third string, and this team's going to keep their first string in longer. I mean, that's about all you can do.
That's all you can do. Yeah.
The mindset's different, and you know this as being a coach. Well, I guess you're not an NFL coach, but you always want to win as a coach. Well, you always want to win as a coach, but preseason's different because you're testing out guys that won't even make the practice squad. So your schemes and your decision making is going to be different. So how do you cap against that?
Yeah.
And then you have the Jaguars that are 2.5 point favorite versus the Steelers, or the game that I took and hit when Houston, the worst team in football, is favored over the Rams, the best team in football, supposedly. Yeah. I mean, it's just
I don't think we're the worst team in football anymore.
Who do you think's the worst?
I don't know. I need to look. Starting the NFL breakdowns this week, actually. I got to get with Mikey and see.
I'll tell you, there's 2 teams. You and the Bears, or you, meaning you're in Houston, but I don't know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. What you mean by you? Definitely the Bears. I think we're better. Okay, so my thing with us is this. I like Lovie Smith as a coach, directional wise. Now, when I say we're better, like our cap is like 7 games. So, let me just say that off the bat. I'm not thinking like we're gonna, and that's a good season for us. I don't think we're gonna quite get 7.
That'll be overachieving for sure.
Right. I think we're probably more 5, 6.
Mm-hmm.
But directionally speaking, I think we're in a way better position than we were last year. I like what Nick Caserio did in the draft. I do like the addition of Lovie Smith. I think the defense will be better. If you just watch some of the preseason game, they play a lot harder for Lovie Smith than they did for Cully. And this is just no knock on Cully. It was just circumstantial of where the team was in that first year. It was just terrible. I think now we got a little bit of direction. We'll still be at the bottom. We'll be bottom 5, bottom 10. I don't think we're the worst though. I think that's still yet to be seen. That's. But
you're right. I should be fair. I just think that.
But no, we're up there. I'm not mad at anybody that picks us.
They're a team. This will just show you. No, we get too far off on the NFL tangent, but it should show you that the books knew that the Rams, they know teams that know who they are, like the Rams. Granted, they're the Super Bowl champs, but most teams know who they are, so they know that they're not starting these guys. They don't need to test this out and test that out. Right. The Bears and the Texans are 2 teams that are wandering in the desert. They don't know who they are. Yeah. They need to figure themselves out, and I think the pieces are better for Houston, but there's still 2 teams that are wandering. The Bears are in trouble. I mean, they make bad decisions though. We'll see. But they're both two teams that are going to struggle for sure.
We'll see. But yeah, to cap it all up, I'm right there with you. The way I like the Ravens game, I went and looked at the backup quarterbacks, and I'm like, okay, Huntley's a way better backup than I think Browning is.
It started like half the season last year almost.
Right. Oh, McSorley, that's who it is. Look, and I'm looking at the numbers now. Huntley's 13 for 14, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. McSorley is 14 for 27, 168, 2 INTs. There you go, right there. So that's how I cap preseason. But enough of that. I mean, preseason is preseason. I don't recommend anybody bet preseason like you bet the season. I'm just like I said, doing little $5-10 parlays, guys, and seeing what happens. That's about it. But all right, we spent like 10 minutes on NFL, which definitely not. That is not the reason we are here. So this is the reason we are here. We're going to talk about the Pac-12, people. Obviously, we know it's going to be a realignment in a couple of years, but right now, they're still the Pac-12 as we know it, still considered one of the Power Fives. Just going to do a quick overview of what we both think about the conference. Don't give out your champion. By the way, we'll have a segment. We'll talk about who we think is going to win. As an overview, though, I mean, I think you got the same cast of characters that you had last year. Primarily, it's going to be Oregon. It's going to be USC. And you got to have the Utes in there. And I think Oregon State is going to surprise a couple teams this year. I don't consider them one of the contenders. I don't think they'll win the conference, but I think it'll be a tough place to play, especially at home. What they got going on. UCLA is another team I think we probably have to talk about in the mix. But that would be my basic look. Obviously, you got Lincoln Riley transferring in to USC. That's the big news of the conference, along with them and UCLA leaving. But, how long is it going to take to turn a program around? He's certainly bringing in talent with him from OU. Certainly should have talent there. I don't know exactly how much talent is there. I don't think they're as talented. I mean, I think they're more talented than Utah, but I don't think the discrepancy is what it used to be in past and what it probably should be and will be going forward. I still think the Ducks, I think it's going to come between probably the Ducks and Utes. We'll see what USC has in the mix, but that's probably like the overview for me. That's the teams to look out for. Like I said, maybe no love for Arizona and Arizona State. No love for Cal and Stanford. Stanford's always physical, I guess, if I have to say anything, but I don't think they're going to do anything this year. I think maybe you can squeeze some Husky talk in, maybe. But I'm really looking at Oregon, Oregon State, Utah, USC, and maybe some UCLA messing up some things with a couple sneaky wins in there. That's my overall view of Pac-12 right now.
Yeah, I don't think you're off at all. Unfortunately, this and it's so I'm gonna just let it out there. I'm a big USC guy. I went to school there. I've been but I'm not a homer in that I'm not unrealistic. I'm not like a Cowboys fan that every year, And the deal is we're gonna see what happens when this realigns, when USC leaves, when UCLA leaves. California's trying to stop UCLA from leaving. They're going to leave. But it's the same old as far as the top tier teams. When you look at the top 3 teams, well, actually, let's take a step back. USC was horrible last year. And when I talk about USC, I'm going to talk about how much of an unrealistic expectation they have because they're making a jump from 4 wins to the books having them as the winners of the conference. Now, they've gained more that USC's ever, probably since Pete Carroll's been there, they've gained so much as a team, not just the coach, the transfer portal. They're probably the number 1 team in the country where the transfer portal affected them the best. They have 20 transfers, but I think the expectation's too high. But we have Utah up there. They won. They beat Oregon 38-10 last year in the conference finals. Oregon's up there still. SC's up there. And then UCLA's probably the 4th team. I don't see them really putting any pressure on the conference to win. Another thing to note too is we no longer have divisions in the conference. It's going to be the top 2 teams, which always was better for the South than the North, because the North had, Utah and Oregon in it. In the South, it was essentially USC and whoever wanted to spoil the party.
I like it better this way, as long as they all play each other.
Me too. I think every conference should be this way, in my opinion. But that's what we've got. So I mean, I don't disagree. It's kind of a boring conference in that you only have a few teams to really talk about. But what I'd like to do, and as a handicapper, is there are some opportunities that I'm going to look for with the quote unquote, let's just call them crappier teams in the conference, for you guys to look out for, because there are some really good betting opportunities, I think, that are going to come.
Yeah, I agree. From a betting perspective, yes, there's going to be certainly opportunities for the bottom feeders to fade the bottom feeders and probably ride the cream of the crops.
Yep.
I agree there, depending on, what kind of lines we get. But as far as, serious contenders outside of that, or just like you said, I'm kind of with you. I try not. Luckily, Big Boss is here, so I'm going to taper it back a little bit, because if he was here, I would crap all over this conference like I normally do. I'm going to taper it down a little bit, but I'm personally, and anybody that's been keeping up with Brothas N Bets for the last 2 years or year or so knows, like, this is definitely not a conference that I prefer to watch. Bet on, yes, because it's late night. There's nothing else to really bet on. So you get those late night Pac-12 games. But from a football perspective, I think it's one of the weaker conferences. I put it behind SEC, obviously. I put it behind Big Ten. I think I put it behind Big 12 as well, with Baylor and Ohio State. And then if Oklahoma and if Texas can get back to what they used to be, I think it's a better conference top to bottom. ACC, I think, is kind of in that ACC-ish range. I'm really concerned about what they're going to do once USC leaves and takes UCLA with them. They're going to have to try to get somebody that's worth something.
See, I don't disagree with anything. Well, I'm going to taper a little bit what you said. So obviously SEC is better. The Big Ten is better. That's where SEC is going to end, or USC and UCLA are going to end up. And this isn't the Pac-10 that we knew when we were growing up, and then when I went there, it's just different. And I think things have changed, and there's been sanctions and additions, and it's just kind of been kind of a mesh up. But I would say that they're on par with the Big 12, almost on par with the Big 12. I think the ACC is weaker, and that's because it's Clemson and everyone else. And in this conference, there is albeit small chance, but there is a chance for 2 teams out of this conference. There's a pathway to get to the actual playoffs.
Yeah.
There's Clemson's the only one that's going to do that in the ACC. And actually, I'd say in the Big 12, there's probably only 2 or 3 teams that would do it too. So that's where I'm kind of putting them. Now, the bottom of all of those conferences is better than the bottom of this conference. All of those teams are better than Arizona. All of those teams are better than Cal.
Right.
But when you look at the top teams and where they're going to compete, there are 2 teams, and we'll get to it, or I'll get to it, that I think it's a long shot, but there is an actual path to get into the playoffs.
I can agree with that. I think they need to go look at Fresno State and think about inviting them in.
I agree. I
think that would be huge, and maybe even San Diego State.
San Diego State. You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yep. I would definitely go get both if USC leaves. Probably would think about adding Fresno even if they don't. I mean, Fresno's a really good team with a really good national following for a smaller school, and they're a really tough team. I think they'll add some toughness to the schedule, and I think they won't disappoint out of conference neither. So I would look into adding both those teams. Definitely if USC leaves, even if they don't, I would still think of. I would give Fresno State the invite anyway. Personally, my personal opinion.
They play all of the Pac-12 teams super hard, including SC. They play them real hard.
Right, and so I would go get them. San Diego State, somebody I would strongly consider. But if USC and UCLA leaves, I would definitely go get both of those schools immediately. But yeah, all right. So not a bad start. Let's keep it going. So we've got a little preview there. Let's talk about the champs last year, and that's obviously the Utah Utes. They finished the season at 10-4. They went 8-1 in the Pac-12, and their lone loss in the conference was to Oregon State, 34-32. That game was at Oregon State, which, like I said earlier, I think that's going to be a tough place to play, especially at night. That is a tough place to play. Those kids be rowdy. And looking at their schedule this year, we're going to see what they're made of right off the bat. They're taking on Florida game 1. And they have a new coach, so I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take to implement his system. But I'm very high on Bill Napier at Florida coming from Lafayette. So I don't know how tough it's going to be because he just got there. Talent-wise, though, Florida's fucking extremely talented. So if they got the system down, I guess for Utah, it's better to catch them now than like week 4. So I think that'll be a tough game. Then you get San Diego State game 3. So like right off the bat within the first, and then Oregon State week 5. So by the week 5 of the season, we're gonna know what Utah is about. I'm high on this team. They made me a lot of money last year in the Pac-12. I didn't really catch on to them until later in the season, actually when they started rolling, because I took them against Oregon. I took them against Oregon in the championship as well, and I think I took them from Stanford actually on down. I just rode that wave. They were just fucking annihilating people. 38-7 at Oregon last year, 28-13 at Colorado. The championship, 38-10 against Oregon. And then I was actually on them against Ohio State in the what was that, the Rose Bowl, if I'm not mistaken? The Rose Bowl last year.
Was the Rose Bowl the championship? I get confused every year because now they use the Rose Bowl was always the big
Pac-12
was the Pac-12 and the Big Ten or Pac-10, and now it's used as a playoff game some years. So I don't.
Right, it's weird. No, it wasn't a playoff game. It was just like a New Year's Day bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
they played Ohio State. That was a great. I remember that was a back and forth game. It was 45-48. Yep. So I took Utah on that one. So I'm high on this team. They have 8 returning starters coming back from the last year's offense, including the quarterback, including the running back. You get both tight ends and a receiver. You're missing the right side of your offensive line, but you get the left side. So I don't kind of know how that's necessarily going to balance out. I'm a little concerned with the defense only bringing back 5 starters, but you do bring back both your starting corners. So, and you get the half of the D line, like a D tackle. So I like them this year. I think I don't know if they necessarily win the conference, but I like Cameron Rising, the quarterback. I'm really high on this kid over there, especially what he did last year. First team, I think he was first team. He came in. Did he come in the middle of the season? I know he was first team All Pac-12.
I can't remember. I just know
he came in the middle of the season, if like after 2 games or so, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if he started, but all I can remember is how good he was last year. So he made an impression.
Yeah, he was balling last year. So, I like I said, I love this team, especially for being in the Pac-12. They finished number 2 in scoring in the Pac-12, number 1 in rushing yards per game, and number 3 in total yards per game. And you get a bulk of that coming back. Like I said, you're only missing 3 starters from that offense last year. So I expect that offense to continue rolling. I'm not sure about the defense, if it's going to take a step back. I do. The returning no linebackers, that front 7 kind of concerns me, but it's not like who's going to run the ball down their throat in the Pac-12, and that's kind of the thing that's like I don't know if should be a major concern. Maybe I'm overlooking into it, but I do expect this team to be right there in the top of the Pac-12, 1, 2, or 3. And that's kind of that. I expect 1 or 2, but I think Lincoln Riley we'll talk about that when we talk about SC. That's the X factor because we don't know exactly how long it'll take him to turn it around. I have 100% confidence that he will because of the talent and his offensive scheme. It's just going to determine, how long it takes for those guys to learn the system and how long whoever his concern with me is he doesn't do any defense. So there's going to be shootouts, and I think when you're in shootouts, you give yourself a chance to lose because you can't stop anybody. So I mean, if you score 50 points and I score 55, then I win because you can't stop me. So but that's the wild card. I do like them to finish top 3. When we go over our conference championship, I'll announce that later. But I like what I see. I like what they have bringing back. I'm definitely on this bandwagon. But early is going to be tough, man. Florida, San Diego State, Oklahoma, Oregon State, and UCLA and USC are like all in their first 7 games, bro. It's a brutal schedule.
Yeah, I don't disagree. They're a fantastic team. They host USC, which is good for them. They travel to Oregon and UCLA, which are 2 spots that you need to look at. The thing about Utah is, and Kyle Whittingham's a great coach. He's been there forever. They're a great team.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. I think since Alex Smith was there. But anyway,
5 years. Yeah, he's been there. No. I'm sorry.
Since 2005, I think. 2004, something like that.
17 years.
Yeah. Since 2005. Yeah, since Alex Smith was there. Maybe right after he got drafted. But either way, it's a well-run team. The problem is they don't always get the athletes that the SCs get, even that the Oregons get. That's their main thing. But they have a ton of returners, like you said. They have 2 great tight ends. They did lose 2 O-linemen, so that's, I guess, a concern. But their biggest concern is their defense. They lost 4 of their top tacklers. They've got questions at linebacker. But then again, there isn't a team. This isn't the USC of old. It's not running back you. No one's going to be running the ball down their throat. And that's why they match up so well, because they can defend against the pass, and they have a guy that can pass too. But they also have 2 tight ends that are outlet options. So they fit really well. Utah does in the Pac-12. That's why they've done so well. And obviously, Cam Rising is a sneaky Heisman candidate. I think very, very dark horse.
I agree.
Yeah, but and I like his mustache. I like everything about the guy. But I think that Utah, I think they're going to run into a new USC team. And I think that they're going to Oregon is always tough. We'll talk about conference champions later, and there is and also the playoffs. There is a path for this team to do really well, but it comes down to 2 games, and who knows how that Florida game is going to be. If they beat Florida in the first game of the season, I say watch out.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be a good test. Like I said, it's kind of hard to gauge the Florida game because, first-year head coach.
Yeah.
How prepared are they going to be? How much knowledge of the system? A lot of changes.
How are the players attached? I mean, it's really a lot about the player-coach relationship. How quickly did the players take it? We've talked about that behind the scenes a lot. But I'm high on Napier too. I'm high on that Florida team. Maybe it's because they've done so below expectation the past, forever.
I'm gonna be a bias. I'm a biased Florida fan. I mean, I've kind of been a fan since like Chris Leak before the
Chris Leaf. I got you.
Yeah, Chris Leak.
Right pre-Tebow.
Yeah, pre-Tebow. So I could be a bit biased. I do like this team. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I made a lot of money off Louisiana last year, so that's why I'm high on Napier. But and he's going to get talent like he's never had before, and I love the hire. So if it translates, then watch out.
Is that game in Florida?
That game is in. Let me go back.
I'm embarrassed. I didn't look at that.
Oh, I think it's actually
in Florida.
Is it? Oh, wow. Yeah, at Florida. So if they go in at Florida and win that game,
watch out.
Yeah, they're gonna be something to talk about.
I don't know. I'm gonna be looking at that game. I think that's a loss for Utah, but that's just me.
I want to see what the line is. I haven't looked at it yet. I know it's out already.
Yeah.
I might take the points. It's just too much new at Florida right now.
I think if the books were smart, and I haven't looked at it. I usually, especially with football, I cap the week of or a few days before. And there are a couple games I'm looking at ahead of time and have been. But that game, I mean, that game to me is way under a touchdown.
Yeah, I think so.
Way under. I don't want to see 3 points.
plus 6 or 5.
3.5 or something like that. Maybe
I'll take 3.5.
Yeah, something like that. Because I don't know if the line, Utah could get disrespected though, because there's definitely, just like with fans or the TV or anyone, there's an SEC bias everywhere.
Sure, I have it.
Yeah, it's a disease.
I have it myself.
Alabama created it.
Yeah, and so I know we'll get a favorable line, and that's one of the games that when the line, so the line's already out, so I won't say when the line comes up, but like Thursday through Saturday, it's gonna get bet up because it's like you said, the SEC bias, and football is the most bet sport. So we got a lot of I don't want to say rookies, but we got a lot of people that don't traditionally bet that are just gonna blindly bet Florida because they're playing Utah.
You can say it, dumbasses. We all feel the same way.
Right. So if even if it's opened at a 3.5, I think it'll get pushed up to a 4.5. I think that's one of the games that if you
dude, how good are we right now? Shoot, I just exited out of it. Hold on one second.
It's at 3.5. Don't tell me
it's less. It's closer, which means that they're saying that Utah's a better team on a neutral field. Hold on one second. Let me.
Yeah, because home court's supposed to be 3.5.
Yeah, it depends. Some stadiums are more or less. Actually, I use 2.5 for the NFL, but yeah, you can get the line at Utah minus. Actually, Utah's a favorite. Bro.
Oh wow,
-2. That just tells you. I mean, that's bet on Utah. I mean, if they're going into Florida and they're a favorite.
I'll wait though. I'll wait.
No. I'm not even getting there yet. It's too far away. But
yeah, I'm gonna wait, and I know there's gonna be some SEC bias, and that line will be pick 'em -1
for sure. That's a good point. This is a line you want to wait on because you're gonna have all the Florida humpers,
right? Sure. Unless you're a Florida guy. If you're a Florida guy, you probably want to get it early.
Oh boy, I'm excited about that game now. You got me excited.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Let's keep it going. All right. Let's talk about the runner-up for that conference. They got blown out in that game. Actually got blown out by Utah twice. And it was within 2 weeks of each other because they played Utah on the 20th, lost 7-38, backdoor and played them on the 3rd,
I think it was, yeah,
and lost 10-38. We talk about the Oregon Ducks. They lose their coach, Cristobal. They're replacing him with Dan Lanning. Oh shit! Let me get my book, my notes.
He's from Georgia.
Yeah. Me and Boss did the old coaches breakdown. It's in my notes somewhere, and he was one of the guys we discussed. But Dan Lanning, they finished the season at 7-2 in the Pac-12, 10-4 overall. Opened up with a win against Fresno State and a big win at Ohio State. In week 2, September 11th.
They did.
And pretty much ran the table till we get to Stanford. We lose at Stanford inexplicably, and we lose then, like I said, 2 losses to Utah, and then they lose in the Oklahoma, which baffles the fuck out of me. How did Cristobal? Well, I know how he got the job because he's an alum, and that's what I was saying. Like, I don't think he did anything at Oregon that said, hey, he's one of the next hottest coaching candidates that we should go get from Miami.
You're low. I've watched your stuff. You're low on him big time.
I'm not. I just don't know what he did. I just wasn't. I don't think what he did at Oregon. All he did at Oregon was like essentially keep the ship afloat. I don't think they went up or down in his tenure.
He won two Pac-12 championships, and were they part of the, I can't remember, but they might have been part of the Oregon for a year or two was part of the playoff consideration, but I think he was after that. I can't remember.
I don't remember him getting consideration. He may have, and he won 2 Pac-12 championships when he didn't have to compete with a down USC.
I feel you.
Yeah. So, for whatever that's worth, I guess. But yeah. I think actually, I think they take a step back. I mean, it's hard to say take a step back, right? Because who are they going to be playing? We're really talking about them playing Utah, and we're really talking about them playing USC as far as the Pac-12 is concerned. I look at their schedule. They open up against Georgia, And even though Georgia isn't what Georgia was last year, I think the defense is going to take us. I mean, they had like 5 first-round draft picks on that defense.
Yep.
So it's only they have to take a step back. That was like an historic great defense.
Yep.
But I still don't think this team can beat Georgia.
In Georgia? Hell no.
It doesn't. Let me see. It's in Atlanta, so I don't think it's at Georgia.
Really?
It's at the. It's probably at the Mercedes-Benz State. Not Mercedes-Benz State.
It's probably. Think there's going to be all Georgia fans there? I think
there's going to be all Georgia fans in fucking Atlanta. So you got that. I need to go look at BYU. I can't remember who's returning. Is Alzi? I don't know if you know this. Is Alzi the running back? Is he coming back?
I don't know. I can check.
There's nothing to look up now. But depending on what BYU has returning, that will be a tough game for them.
They're always a tough. BYU's an elephant hunter. I've said that before. They take people out. You know.
I made so much money through like the first 6 weeks on BYU.
Yep.
Like I was all over BYU for like the first 6 weeks. They were just fucking cash until they kind of suffered some injuries. But I mean, their schedule is not bad. They avoid USC. They don't play Utah till the end of the season, and Oregon State's the last game. So the schedule sets up nice for them to have a great schedule. But honestly, I think they'll be more a fraud than contender. Simply, I think the defense will take a step back, missing Thibodeau. They do return 7 on the defense and 7 on the offense. So you do got a lot returning. But then you're bringing in Bo Nix from Auburn as your quarterback. And yeah, I got a friend of mine that fucking loves Bo Nix. And
why? Is he on drugs?
I have no fucking clue. And I try to figure it out every year. And he fucking bets Auburn and he loves Bo Nix. And I feel like Bo Nix ain't shit. And I don't even think he matches like I don't know what I can't remember my notes on Dan Larry, and I have to find them real fast. I don't know what his offensive system is, but I don't think Bo Nix fits what Oregon has there currently.
I don't. All I know, and I'll wait for you to finish. But I have a plan.
No, I mean, go ahead and take over.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I am down on Oregon this year.
Yeah, I am too. I would say if you're looking at teams that are getting better or getting worse, I think Oregon takes a step back. I have USC and Utah in the conference championship, but you know, and a lot of people have Oregon to win the conference, which to me is a little crazy. But by the way, I think there's zero, especially since they're going to lose to Georgia the first game. They could lose. They could be 0-2 their first 2 games and go into Eastern Washington.
You think they lose to Eastern Washington?
No. That's the third game, I think. It might be
no, it's Georgia, Eastern Washington, BYU.
Okay. They could be 1-2. They could be 1-2 going into conference play. They do. This is the thing. They've got a really easy schedule. They've got a really easy conference schedule on the road. They avoid USC. They host Utah. We didn't say that. Utah is in Eugene.
Right.
Bo Nix. Don't get me started. Bo Nix should be playing in like Division II or something. When you watch him play, it's an eye test. He makes horrible decisions. He rushes stuff. He's not accurate.
He's not close to accurate.
No, he's horrible. And the only reason why Oregon would want him is because he plays for the best conference. He played for a team in the best conference in the country. I mean, that's the only reason why.
Bo Nix played under. So the new offensive coordinator was at Auburn, Bo Nix's freshman year where he started. So that's the connection.
So Bo Nix still sucks. He could be a good coordinator. I mean, it doesn't matter. Bo Nix is not an improvement over, I think, Ty Thompson. I can't remember the quarterback last year. It doesn't matter.
Ty Thompson, yes.
Also, by the way, Oregon's system is not an SEC system. They've always had this quirky, scheme. Granted, it's not as wide open as it used to be, but anyway. And they lost their running back who went to USC. Who Dye was the dude in that Ohio State game last year. And when Oregon beat Ohio State, I said this team could be a playoff team. And then
I thought so.
Yeah. They're going to have a good O-line. They're going to have good linebackers and a D line.
Right.
They lost a ton of DBs, and it's going to be transfer reliant. The problem is this team didn't benefit anywhere near what USC or any of the teams benefited from transfers. It went the other way. So the deal is they're gonna lose to. I think Utah beats them. I think Georgia beats them. So that right there takes them out of the conversation for playoffs. And then they're probably going to get a sneaky loss from an Oregon State or a Washington State or.
Well, they end the season with Oregon State after Utah, and I think Utah is going to beat them up, and then I think they lose because that's going to be at Oregon State, and I
feel
guarantee
you. In Reiser, yeah,
I think
or Reiser, however you say it. I think they lose one. They lose another. They lose at least 2 conference games, and you're only going to be able to lose one and have serious consideration. I think because I don't see Utah losing more than one, and I'm thinking USC, unless they have a blow up against like one of those teams, like Washington State or something. I don't see USC and Utah losing more than one game in the division. I mean, in the conference. So Oregon's number 3 to me. They're not going back to the championship.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, offensively, they should be fine, but then I look at Bo Nix and I'm like, no, they're not. Because I mean, they're literally returning their entire starting offensive line, including the tight end. You would think that would at least have the offense steady. But Bo Nix is just his decision making is just like one of the worst college quarterbacks I've personally seen. And he's like in fade to me. Even though he was at Auburn, so that made. I wasn't saying Auburn was an automatic fade.
Do you trust his ass against? It's going to be a shootout versus USC. It's going to be a shootout versus Washington State. It's going to be a down in the trenches battle versus Utah, and they can't handle that either. I mean, like,
no, they're going to have to score against Utah. Utah averaged 30 points a game in their offense.
Yeah, well, the problem is Utah is still a physical team. They're not as run and shoot as the other two. But Oregon's going to take a step back. They're not going to be a bad team, but they're going to.
I actually think they're going to be a fade. I think they'll win a lot of these games, but I think they won't cover a lot of those games.
That's a good point. They're at 8.5. They're I don't bet futures.
Yeah, I'm not a futures guy.
But they're 8.5 win total. I think they're under. I think they're maybe at 8 wins.
Like 7 I think they're definitely Georgia. I think they're definitely going to cover. BYU, BYU will be the underdog. I'm probably going to take BYU.
Take the money line, maybe.
Even money line, definitely. Yeah. Only thing is that's at Oregon. I need to see who's coming back from BYU. They can definitely go in there and beat Oregon.
Yeah,
I agree there. All right, we can do this one real quick. I think the only thing we talked about Dan Laring. I think the main thing to talk about which is the obvious, because the other coaches don't matter. Just honestly,
there were only 3 coaches, only 3 changes. So
right, we talked about Laring. What was the other one?
That's Lincoln Riley, obviously, but Kalen DeBoer came from Fresno State to Washington.
Okay, yeah. And I like DeBoer. I don't know what he's going to be able to do at Washington because I think they have trouble recruiting. And I don't know like what major talent comes up in their state. But I love what he did at Fresno, obviously. Yeah. He has a career record of fucking 79-9. So he definitely can coach. It's just that's a fucking tough place to be. I forgot who had it going for a little while. Wasn't it the guy from Boise?
Peterson.
Yeah. Peterson. There we go. Doug Peterson?
No, Doug Peterson's the coach for the old coach for the Eagles. I'll look him up. There's the Boise State. I know you're talking.
The Boise State coach though. Yeah. He had them looking good. But I think the main thing, like I said, I think I said that earlier. The Washington could be the 4th or 5th team in the mix of the conference, maybe sneaky good. I think it's going to take some time for him to get in. He did it at Boise, so maybe he can do it at Washington. But
Chris Peterson.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go. But I think the main coaching change here, obviously, is Lincoln Riley at USC. Obviously, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good hire. I think the main thing that is going to benefit outside of football X's and O's is that he's going to be able to keep and I've said this plenty of times. I said this on Big Boss Show. Anytime I've talked about Lincoln Riley going to USC, somebody has to keep the California 5-star recruits in fucking California, because you got Bryce Harper, quarterback from California. Not Bryce Harper. Bryce, Alabama's quarterback. Bryce Young, California kid.
Yep.
C.J. Stroud, Ohio State, California kid. So those are 2 5-star recruits that left the sunny, beautiful weather and beautiful beaches and USC Hollywood fucking lifestyle to go to Tuscaloosa. There's nothing happening in Tuscaloosa, people. And to go to I can't even think of where Ohio State is.
But it's in Columbus.
Columbus. There we go. Columbus, Ohio.
I've been there. It's no LA, and I grew up in Southern California.
Definitely no LA. And not to mention that you're in LA, but you're at SC. So it's not just LA. It's like you're like Hollywood. So to leave that and go to Tuscaloosa, no knock on Tuscaloosa, people, but it's not LA. It's not, even if you're not magnify, even if the the glitz and the glamour don't mean anything to you, you still got beautiful weather and beaches. So to leave all of that behind, and we're just talking quarterbacks, we're not talking receivers and running backs and offensive linemen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. California is one of the, in my opinion, top 3 states that produce top tier college football talent, and you got kids leaving the number 1 school in the state to go to other places. I think Lincoln Riley rectifies that. And with that being said, in rectifying that, I think you put USC back on the map, back to the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart days, where they were a problem with people. Now, I don't think he'll have a problem with the culture. I do believe in his offense. He has to get him a defensive coordinator. And I don't know how good Alex Greenwich is. I didn't really do a bunch of research on him, but he has to get a defense that can fucking stop somebody. And if he can do that, then he can compete with the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Ohio States in the world. Getting out of the conference is obviously going to help, but that's what 2 to 3 years if the state doesn't block them from now. But that being said, he's bringing over Caleb Williams he has a quarterback. I think the offense is going to be fine. The thing that concerns me is the defense. They're only bringing back 3 starters. I know this is your team, so I'll let you take it away. But they're bringing back 6 on offense. I know they hit the transfer portal heavy. So it's going to be how fast Lincoln Riley can coach these guys up. I don't think the offense is going to be the issue. I think they'll score probably 30 points a game immediately coming out the back of the season. But then we look at the schedule real fast. They're in the fucking Pac-12, so it's not like they have to be a Big Ten SEC defense right now to get a spot. They just got to be, good enough, because I think talent-wise, they're better than anybody in the conference. Talent-wise, I think they're slightly better than Utah, but one good season changes that at SC. But at SC, because it's SC, they have to go to Utah. Tough game. I think they lose that game, but that's enough time to get everything rolling. I think it'll be a tough game. They get Oregon State early. Think they win that game. I think it comes down to these 2 teams. It's definitely going to come down to that Notre Dame game at the end of the season. We're speaking out of conference now, because I think it's going to come down between them and Utah. But if they're looking at, a possible playoff spot, if that's possible, I don't know where their preseason ranked at, but they'll need Utah to beat Florida and keep all that going. Hopefully that's a big matchup. But outside chance looking in, that game could have major implications on a possible, I don't think they'll get it just because of the conference they're in, but a possible outside looking in fourth playoff spot. Schedule sets up for them nice. They get Fresno State and Oregon State early, so if anything, I guess that's a test. But October 15th at Utah, that's the real test to Take it away, man. Let's talk about your trophy.
Do you want to do top conference transfers? Or you just want to jump in right into the schools?
I'm not going to do transfer. USC has a transfer.
Well, the thing is that there were a lot of transfers, but the most impactful transfers in the entire college football were in this conference, and most of them were to USC. So they got Lincoln Riley, and SC their culture is very Hollywood, and it is very sad that basically Southern California, a lot of the Catholic schools and stuff, they were breeding grounds for SC. Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, he didn't go to Catholic school, but he came from there. Lendell White of Long Beach Poly was a funnel for all of the running backs and DBs for years to SC. Now they want to go other places, and it has to do with recruiting. Saban, great recruiter. Dabo, great recruiter. Back in the day, I don't know if people remember this. Pete Carroll's recruiter was Coach O, who was the head coach at Ole Miss and failed, came to SC as an O-line coach, and then most recently took Joe Burrow and LSU to the championship. The reason why he did that is recruiting. Lincoln Riley is a recruiter. Lincoln Riley is a younger guy. Lincoln Riley fits in perfectly with the SC culture, and he brought all of his dudes. I don't know much about Alex Grinch. I do know that Oklahoma doesn't play defense, so that's a big concern. But and we'll get into that in a second. But Caleb Williams came with him. Jordan Addison. People don't talk about him. He won the Belindakoff Award last year. That's the best receiver in the whole freaking deal. He was the best receiver in college. You also have Travis Dye from Oregon, the dude that ran all over Ohio State. You've got Shane Lee from Alabama. He's a linebacker. The problem is Alabama's so stacked at linebacker. He couldn't play there. He would have been a backup. And you've got that's 4 guys. You've got 16 other guys that are going there. This is why expectation is so high for USC coming from a 4-win team, because they're getting stacked, which is never really good when you're on top of the mountain trying to fend people off. But the way that I see it is they're going to be loaded on offense, and their defense is the big question. Now, are they we talked about talent going other places. SC's getting plenty of talent. SC's still getting better talent than Utah is, for sure. Utah's playing with less. But you've got 3 returning starters on defense, and you already had a linebacker and a secondary issue. People threw all over USC. So it's going to be up to how they plug the gaps with the transfer portal, and also how this new defensive coordinator is going to run, because it can go one of 2 ways. It can either be USC crushes everyone on offense and keeps them in the game of defense, or this could be a shootout every game, 50 points for both teams. And I don't know. I'm thinking it's probably going to be more of the former. I think they're getting their stuff together. But SC's back on track after 12, 13 years of sanctions and all that crap that happened. And they made a better coaching change, because every coach up until now was part of the Pete Carroll tree. So they've gotten away from that. And, I think it's Utah and USC in the game. And we'll talk about it later, but there's a path for both teams to be considered for the playoffs. The only thing I don't like about SC and their position is they're way hyped. They might be overhyped. It might be a year too early, personally. Did I lose you? We might have lost Marley here. See if he comes in. Give us a couple seconds. I think he's jumping back in here.
So,
you're back?
I'm technically no. So my energy company, they're outside working on the towers.
Oh no! What a! You look kind of cool, actually, though.
My power is still out, and I just got on my phone.
On your phone, yeah.
Now that thing sucks. But let's wrap up what you were saying. Coaches changes.
I'm good to go. We talked about it. We talked about SC. We've talked about Utah. We've talked about Oregon enough. I mean, to be honest with you, those are the three teams. We could talk about UCLA, but they're just a spoiler, really. They're just here to ruin the chances of really good teams going anywhere. Chip Kelly's still the coach. They got their QB coming back. They lost a ton of players. Chip Kelly, here's a funny stat. Chip Kelly has only had 2 wins versus winning teams at UCLA since 2018. So if we're talking about people that they essentially they don't matter, and the rest of we could talk about every single team, but they're not. We know there's no chance for them to be a conference champion. That's for sure.
I definitely don't think so. Don't see them doing anything, honestly. Like you said, they're going to be in the spoiler role, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the conference champion real quick, or who we think will be. I kind of think I know where you're going, or at least I don't know where you're going, but I know who you like in the championship. I think we have the same teams. I got Utah and USC. I don't know if we have the same winners. I like Utah. I just think that it's going to take him a year. And, maybe by the conference championship, those guys would have grown up and learned the system. That's definitely plenty of time to have to get everything down. And with the talent, like you said, they do have. Even before Lincoln Riley got there, they were still getting better talent than Utah. But I think when you're bringing 8 guys back offensively, from an offense that put up 30 points a game last year, it's a lot of camaraderie coming back with a coach that knows, yes, definitely has found a QB. The defense, I don't know if it's going to be as good as last year because they only got like 4 guys coming back, and that's kind of a concern for me. But I do think that offense is going to be able to produce. I think what's left on the defense will be just enough to keep them in the games that they need, like the USC, because I think they'll mull through the conference, and their schedule is tough enough that, like you said, we'll find out first week against Florida, which another team that I think is more talented than them, but I think they're a better team. I think that's what we're going to see this year. And like you said, I agree 100%. Cameron Rising is a dark horse candidate for Heisman. Actually, maybe a good goddamn bet for the Heisman race when you think about it, depending on, obviously, Bryce Young's, but he got it last year, so that'll probably be a knock on him. If Cameron Rising can run the table this year and win the conference championship and play as good as he played last year, I think he actually has a legitimate shot, and you'll probably get crazy odds on that. So that's a bet I'm definitely going to look into. But I like Utah against USC. I like Utah in a shootout just because the defense just hasn't gotten there with SC yet. So I'm loving the Utes here.
I don't see. This is the thing. I'm not betting a futures on this. The only thing, and Utah probably is the front runner for the conference championship. But if there's 2 things, one is if they fix something on defense, USC, if they figured out something on the defensive secondary, I think USC is a better team than Utah. Definitely on offense, and if they can keep up on defense, I think they overwhelm them. Now, the other thing is, how much are these guys buying in to Lincoln Riley? I think they bought in, from what I read about, but you never know until you see it. So when you sent me the schedule of stuff to talk about, and you said predict conference championship, I put Utah /USC, not because I'm a homer. I think Utah is a front runner, but I think if USC fix things, they're equal, if not better, in my opinion.
My bad. I'm sorry. Go.
No, go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I think if and we're talking conference championships, so we're talking about them going through a whole season. If they get things together, then I think it's no question that they're probably better.
Yeah.
Because I think we all can agree that they probably have the better talent. So if they're rocking and rolling at that point, then yeah, they would have to be better. Then it's going to come down to probably scheme and then we'll count on a little Utah.
Well, there's a question mark too, because Whittingham's a great coach, but Lincoln Riley is a fantastic offensive mind. That's why I can't shoot. This is the thing. If everything's the same, if USC still has the same crappy secondary, Utah wins for sure. If they figure something out,
that's what I think is going to just be hard to figure out.
Exactly.
I think offensively, Lincoln Riley's going to come in, and I mean, we saw at Oklahoma. I know he was already there, but once Stoops left, it's not like they missed a beat. It probably got better offensively.
Yeah. And USC was great on. I mean, their firepower was there anyways. Their big question was they gave up too many points. I mean, the question is on defense. Let's see if the transfer portal, the non-big names that no one's talking about, do something. It's too hard to predict one. It's one of those two teams. Oregon's look on the outside looking in for sure.
Right. And I think Greenwich, if I'm not mistaken, he came from Georgia.
I don't know much about him. I was looking him up. I can look him up again, but
came from Georgia, so he's going to try to bring that SEC style. And talent-wise, I think he'll have the talent to transfer that defense over. I just think it's going to take time for the guys to understand the style of play and what he expects. And let's be honest, even though yes, they get more talent than Utah, but at this point right now, I don't think that talent discrepancy as big as prior, like the Bush days. I think it's a lot closer right now. So I think it'll take time defensively, unless Greenwich is going to come with a hell of a scheme. But it wasn't Georgia's scheme that made them so good. It was the players that they had.
That's a good point. Yeah, the fact who knows how we'll see this year, how Georgia's defense does, because they dumped a ton of dudes went to the NFL. We'll see how that goes. I think I've just bottom line, it's Utah or USC. Utah is the front runner, but if USC figured things out, then get ready.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Like I said, I got both of them in the championship. I think it's going to come down to them. I like Utah, but if USC ran the tables and won the conference championship, would I be surprised? Of course not. I think they have the most talent in the Pac-12, obviously. Last one before we get up out of here. Is any one of the two teams we're talking about a serious playoff contender? Can we see either one of these two teams getting in the top four?
Define serious. So there's
I don't mean serious as winning it.
I don't know. Again, they might be futures bets you want to put money on. Here's the deal. There's obviously, if Utah or USC runs the table, I think it's even though they won 4 games last year, the schedule dictates. I mean, Utah, is it Florida or Georgia their first game? It's Florida. Yeah. I was thinking about Oregon. I think SC has an easier path towards going undefeated that way if they have Utah's number. But honestly, there is 2 paths for Utah or USC to get into the playoffs. Utah, they both have to be 1 loss, and it has to be against USC or Oregon, probably USC, and USC has to do well too for that to matter. And then USC is either losing to Utah or Notre Dame at the end of the year, which Notre Dame's obviously going to be a good team. Would I bet money on it? Absolutely not. But there is a path for 2 of these teams to have some consideration for getting into the playoffs, which I don't think is the case for like the ACC, which I think there's only 1 team that can have consideration. So outside shots for sure, but I wouldn't put money on it.
I agree with you as far as I think both of these teams have 1 shot each to get into consideration for the playoffs. I disagree that they can have one loss. They have to be undefeated, which is going to cancel one of them out, obviously. So we're talking about the winner of the Pac-12.
If USC loses to Notre Dame at the end of the season and then beats Utah in the championship, their only loss is to Notre Dame, and you have only one undefeated SEC team there, I think they get consideration.
I don't know about that. Because I think you get – so we're talking probably – let's just scenario Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and then I think you get the one-loss other SEC team, which will probably be Georgia, over a one-loss USC.
That's fine. That's fine. What if Clemson isn't in the conversation?
Clemson is the conversation, and then you're talking about a one-loss Utah or USC. I think they get consideration. Depending on what happens with, because we can't forget about, and it kind of did just slip my mind. We still got Ohio State and Baylor.
Baylor and Oklahoma. Oh, even though you and I are high on Baylor, but Oklahoma could be there too.
Yeah, I mean, right, and Oklahoma. So, yeah, I think you.
Long shot, very long shot. I'm just putting out the possibilities.
I think the schedule set up to where it's possible, including Utah's, but they got to run the tables. I don't think a one-loss Pac-12 team gets in over a. You can even exclude the one-loss SEC team, because I think if you got a SEC undefeated and a Big 12 undefeated and Ohio State,
you're right. Yeah,
that'll be 3. So
and Alabama, which everyone assumes is going to go undefeated.
Right. So I think outside they have a slight outside chance, depending on. I think Utah is going to have the better possibility because they're going to start out with the higher ranking, based off what they did last year, and then they start off with Florida, and I really think Oregon State is going to be a bet on team this year. So if they beat a good Oregon State team, you get USC undefeated or maybe one loss in the Pac-12 championship. I think they have the best shot, but it's going to be tough for a Pac-12 team.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, a win for this conference is going to have a team finishing in the top 10. That's going to be a win for them.
Yeah, I think both of these teams can actually, because I think
at the same time, I mean, I think they could both finish in the top 10. It's going to come down to, we know Utah's good. It's going to come down to Utah doing the same thing, keeping up with the Joneses, and SC is a big question mark. I'll be honest with you. The expectation is sky high, but that's always a recipe for disaster. So we'll see.
I agree 100%. All right, man. I'm sorry my power cut out on us toward the end here, but
that's kind of hilarious.
Crazy, man. Right here. I forgot the center point guys are outside when I came back in, and one of the guys' telephone poles with the wires, not telephone poles, but electrical things been fucking up. Yeah. So fixing
I feel you.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. It's getting hot as shit. But we made it. We covered everything. Sorry that happened toward the end there. But hey, man, it was a pleasure. Definitely gonna have you on some Tuesday night episodes of Brothas N Bets going forward here. We'll once we start, the first show will be Tuesday. So after that, we'll start bringing on guests and people that want to do it. You'll definitely be. I'm sure as much as you want to, you'll be on multiple episodes as long as so. Appreciate you joining my brother talking Pac-12. To all the Pac-12 people, I didn't bag on y'all a lot, man, but it's just good luck. I'll leave it at that, man, because I'm not a big Pac-12 guy. But Dave, tell the people where they can find you at.
You can find me on Picks from Dave. That's my handle everywhere, or my name everywhere. Handle on Twitter. I do YouTube picks. You'll find me on this show and a couple others. But go to Twitter. That's where I communicate everything, and I give out free picks every night, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Catch us on the MLB show with the homie Moose Money Bets. Try to get an episode in tomorrow, but I think we're going to be doing SEC tomorrow breakdown because we got official week 0 starting Saturday, and SEC is the last conference that we got to break down. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Might not be able to get a baseball show in, but look forward to the SEC breakdown. And as always, people, I am Marley Bets, and this right here, this is Brothas N Bets, and I knew I was going to fuck it up.
They can't see it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Oh, you're right. They can't see it.
I can see it.
That's picks from Dave. I got it right on the first try. And as always, people, y'all know what it is, man. Like yesterday, like today, and like tomorrow, y'all already know what it is. And that is, let's get Vegas. And we out this motherfucker.
Check it out. Look, we from the bottom, ain't no problems, we gon' make